Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer. For this video, we're going to be going over the Revenant Remembrance questline. It's a decently long questline, but it's really worth it because you get an awesome relic at the end. If you do not have Revenant unlocked, you're going to need to buy the besmirched frame, if that's how you say it, from the jar in the back, and then you're going to have to go to a specific picture. I've already done this, so it's not going to allow me to jump in, and then you will end up having to battle with her. She's rather difficult, and once you defeat her, you will unlock Revenant, which is great news because she's an awesome character and a ton of fun. Now we're going to jump into Chapter 1. For Chapter 1, you're going to go to the journal in the back. Once you're at the journal in the back, this is when you can start Revenant's Remembrance. Starting Revenant's Remembrance, keep in mind, will have specific objectives that you're going to have to do. Now for this one right here, we have to hit Begin Remembrance, and shortly after this, it'll allow us to start it, and we're going to continue to go step by step from here. The first thing you're going to do is talk to Duchess. Exhaust her dialogue completely. You're going to have to go through all of it. For me, I always make sure that I'm clicking through like crazy with that. Now, if you want to read it, of course, but make sure you exhaust everything because these things are very specific in terms of what you need to do. Once you've exhausted her dialogue, we're then going to be looking for the Guardian character because he's going to have an objective for us. Alright, now let's find the Guardian, and as we find the Guardian here, he's right here to my right. These can be difficult to find at times, but generally they're not too far away. You're going to exhaust his dialogue, and he's going to have a mission for us. He wants us to get a specific item, and if we get that specific item, we can then continue the remembrance and go through the chapters. Make sure you exhaust his dialogue entirely. You'll get a prompt. If you haven't really done remembrances and whatnot before, you're going to get some prompts throughout this. They'll kind of give you an idea of what to do and what you can do to basically focus on the remembrance. Once you activate a remembrance, that specific goal is now set in mind unless you change something. Keep that in mind. So for this, we're going to have to defeat a Nightlord, unfortunately, and it's going to have to be the Dog or Darkdrift Knight to get the item. I'm sure you don't need help with the dog, so I'm just going to show this briefly. I edited it to make it a lot shorter, but overall, you're going to run Revenant, of course, and you're going to face the dog most likely because Darkdrift Knight is going to be harder for most people. There's also possibly a bug with Darkdrift Knight. I heard from a couple of people where it's not completing. I do not know if that's been fixed yet or patched, so you're better off taking on the dog anyway. The dog is simply a lot easier. For Revenant, just make sure you stay away because she's kind of a glass cannon. Use your summons when possible, and get in damage when you can. You'll take down the dog in no time, and you'll be able to continue on. It's the easiest boss, in my opinion, to jump in out of these two, and get the goal done, essentially, and then move on from there. Keep in mind you can't use any of the other ones. For example, Augur's really easy, but he would not fit the questline for Revenant, or she rather. So you're going to have to pick the Dog or Darkdrift Knight. Dog, definitely recommended. Now we're going to jump back in and talk to the Guardian after you defeat a Nightlord. We're going to talk to the Guardian here to finish this objective and continue moving on with our chapters. Be in the same exact spot, so no worries there. And once you complete that, you're going to continue to move on with the chapters here, and we're going to go forward with her remembrance. Her remembrance is quite long. I just want to state this real quick. A lot of the remembrances are really long. They're very, very long quest line, but they are worth it because at the end, you're going to get an amazing relic that's going to make her super overpowered. Speaking of which, I'm going to be making a build guide for her upcoming soon, so definitely sub for that. Look forward to that. That should be in a day or two. We're going to go back to the journal. We're going to jump in, conclude chapter 1. That's going to complete chapter 1. And we're then going to be opening up chapter, I believe, 2 through 4, which is mostly going to be reading. We're going to go over this really quickly for chapter 2 through 5. I left these up here for like 5 seconds each if for some reason you wanted to read them, but I'm not going to go over them. It basically explains her story. The first one you're going to open is going to be chapter 2. It's going to show it on screen here. After that, you're going to switch over and you're going to be immediately on to chapter 3, which is, again, just a little bit longer in terms of reading, but these are all reading. You're going to basically cruise through these as fast as you can. If you care about her storyline, there's a cutscene later I'll show. It's actually kind of interesting, so I do recommend reading it. But for this, I kind of just breeze through them relatively quickly. Now we're on chapter 4 already. These go really quickly. This is not stuff that you have to do specifically, but rather reading. And we should be thankful for that because there is going to be another part where you have to defeat another Nightlord. So again, the questline is relatively long. Most of the remembrances are, but we're going through it at a steady pace, hopefully for you guys, where you can understand how to do it. And by the end up with an amazing relic that's going to make Revenant a lot more powerful. If you like playing as her, you're going to need it. Now we go to chapter 5 and we're going to hit Begin Remembrance. Since chapter 5 is technically over, we are now on to chapter 6 immediately, and that's going to be a chapter in which we actually have to do something rather than read. So for chapter 6, once you hit Begin Remembrance here, which we're going to hit at the end here, it's going to basically allow us to go and fight a small boss. I'm going to explain that though, of course, how to do that. It's kind of a gimmick boss fight. It's not really your usual type of boss fight, but follow me on screen here. Now we're at the start of chapter 6, Remembrance. So here's what we got to do here. We're going to have to find Recluse. That's the main thing here. And once we find Recluse, that's going to be the next step for the Remembrance here. I was just standing there for a second as I'm explaining things. I know some people are going to be like, well, this was on the longer side. But yeah, it is. I just want to make sure everything's done right. First things first, though, you do have to talk to Duchess first, so keep that in mind. Before we find Recluse, you're going to exhaust Duchess's dialogue entirely, and then we're going to be specifically looking for Recluse because that's the next major step in which we'll have to face a boss. And she'll be in the garden outside. You may find yourself getting a little bit lost. Initially, when I was doing this, I did because I didn't explore the round table hold or the alternate version of the round table hold that much. But I got the hang of it after this Remembrance more so. So Recluse is going to be here. You're going to exhaust her dialogue. She is going to talk about what I believe it's called the containment or whatever. This is essentially going to be a boss that you're going to have to face twice. However, the first time you face this boss, it is going to be a gimmick boss fight. I will show you what I mean on screen. It's not very difficult at all, but you do kind of have to do a specific thing to make this fight easier. Let's jump into this now as it's going to teleport us to a different location. I also want to state that everything's timestamped in the description. You can see the chapters on screen, so if you have to go anywhere or skip anything, feel free. It's in the description below, and that should help you out. So once it teleports us to this location, we're now in that gimmick boss fight. So for this boss fight specifically, which will activate once you get close to the end here, you're just going to have to really run around. That's kind of the boss fight. So these things explode. They're like the ones from the regular map, the fire ones, and in the beginning, I was getting hit and whatnot because I didn't really know what to do. But as you can see, every time they explode, they will damage the boss, essentially. So just run around in circles. That's it. That's the entire fight. Once I got the hang of that, which is going to be here in a second, it wasn't hard at all. Like, I just realized, sprint through these guys, let them explode over and over again, and they'll continue to damage the boss. Don't overthink this. You don't even need your summons or abilities. Just literally run around in a circle. It makes this like 1,000 times easier. Just watch your stamina bar in the top left corner to make sure you don't run out, and continue to let them do what they're doing, and they're just going to damage the boss. Well, essentially, I guess they are the boss. I'm not really sure how this is working or what's getting damaged, but either way, the health bar is going to go down. You're going to continue to run around in circles over and over again. It's really not that complicated. I showed the entire clip in case you need a strat for it. So I wanted to make sure that anybody that was doing this was not having too much of a hard time or overthinking the boss fight, trying to summon or attack these guys when you can just straight up run around in a circle. But yeah, this really does work in the end. Once I realized this is exactly what I did. And they're just going to destroy themselves. They're going to bring that HP bar down by themselves without any additional help, simply by running around the corners of the room. And now this fight is over. You are then going to talk to the doll in the back of the room. You're going to interact with the doll and continue on with Revenant's Remembrance. And of course, as we jump in, we are now going to go back, and it's going to teleport us back, essentially, to the bench. And here we're going to have to talk to Recluse one more time. Remembrance is going to say completed at the bottom. However, we are not done by any means. There's still more to do to get that awesome relic that we want. Exhaust Recluse's dialogue entirely, of course, because that's going to continue with the Remembrance and we can move on from there. I always recommend talking to them, several times to make sure their dialogue is exhausted, and then click on this thing that's right behind the bench, and we're going to be completing that chapter specifically. But again, there is still more to do here. We still have more to do in terms of this Remembrance. At this point in time, if you've done everything right, you'll get Revenant's Chalice. Then chapter 6 will unlock, but you'll notice there's no begin remembrance on it. Nothing is going to happen after this point. You could just read the chapter 6, and then it seems to appear to end. However, there's actually 8 chapters, and the next thing we're going to need to do, to no surprise whatsoever, is beat Any Nightlord. Now, I believe you have to do this as Revenant. You may be able to use any character. To play it safe, I would do the next part as Revenant. It makes sense to play it as her, especially if you're learning her anyway. But we are going to have to defeat a Nightlord, of course, to continue on from here. That's the best way to continue with the Remembrance. And I'm going to show off real quick again because I'm going to end up picking the dog because it's just really easy for me. Sometimes you'll end up with new players ultimately, but you can see it's not going to start until you beat a Nightlord. And of course, we're going to do that now. Defeat a Nightlord to continue. Gladius is really easy in my opinion. You could also do Augur for this one if you want a guaranteed win. You will end up with some new players with this one. I think I've mentioned that before. That is the one downside to Gladius. However, if you decide you don't want to have to run into that, you can then pick Augur. I'm sure whatever team you have can take Augur down because that's the biggest joke of a boss in FromSoft history, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's incredibly easy. But anyways, Gladius, not too bad. Make sure to keep your distance. In this case, I was using a Scavenger Curve Sword. Do as much damage as you can. Bring down the dog. And then we're going to be able to continue with the Remembrance and head into Chapter 7. Now for Chapter 7, we're coming close to finishing the Remembrance, by the way, and it is a really cool one. I actually think a Remembrance is kind of incredible, and I really enjoyed this one. This was a lot of fun. But anyways, we're going to have to go to the journal in the back here. And then continue from here. We're going to hit begin remembrance. Now that we've beaten a Nightlord, we can jump into chapter 7, and this is going to start the next step. Of course, again, all of this stuff is timestamped, so if you're looking for it to kind of shorten it down a little bit, you could use the timestamps. All right, so back in here, the next thing that we have to do, find Recluse again, and this is kind of going to get towards the end of the Remembrance. This is actually going to be a boss fight, and it can be difficult, so I'm going to explain how to fight this boss as well. This is not a gimmick boss fight necessarily, but there is a way to handle this with summons to make it a lot easier. Exhaust the dialogue from Recluse, and then sit in the bench again, and of course, once again, we'll be teleported to the same area. But in this case, we're going to have to fight what is essentially a Royal Revenant boss, and it's very challenging if you're doing this on your own. Unless you use the summons properly, then you can make this fight a lot easier. All right, let's jump in and fight the boss now. If you don't need help with this, of course, I'll timestamp everything. I'm also going to show the cutscene afterwards. I am not going to talk over that part because I don't like talking over cutscenes. In case you skip it, you'll be able to see it here, and it will be timestamped. So here we go. We're going to summon, of course, and make sure to keep your distance. If you can get the boss to look at the summon and stay concentrated on them, I recommend just hitting them from behind as much as you can. She does a good amount of damage to him, so that's a plus. But overall, you're going to have to use your summons here unless you're a really, really good player, because this boss has an incredibly fast moveset and seemingly no stamina bar. They apparently don't have to watch their stamina whatsoever and can just continue to hit. That's what the Royal Revenant is like, and that is essentially what containment is. So continue to hit them from behind. Use your summons. If your summons go down, you have 2 more that you can use. So make sure to use, I'm using an Xbox controller, Y and left trigger, and summon appropriately. It'll tell you how to summon on the screen from there. And continue to use them. Go up, attack as much as you can, get as much damage as you can possibly get in, and you're going to take down this boss containment in no time. This shouldn't really be that bad overall for you when using summons. If you're not using summons, it's going to be a lot more difficult to take that boss down. All right, there's going to be a scene that's going to play here. I'm going to let it play, and I'll catch you guys in the next timestamp. that was a pretty cool scene, and really went into her backstory, which I thought was nice. It's kind of the From Software level of vague, but at least we got some idea of what's going on between that and the journal. So, of course, at the end, you're going to talk to Recluse, exhaust her dialogue. Again, in this case, you're just going to hit Bury Nightlord. It's literally the only option that you could possibly have. And the Remembrance is going to be complete. I'm going to show you what to do at the end here. And we're going to be finishing up, of course, with Revenant's Remembrance and getting you one of the best relics in the game, in my opinion, and one of the best, of course, relics for Revenant specifically. Make sure, again, that you exhaust your dialogue entirely and follow me on screen. I want to mention, too, by the way, if for some reason you're playing as Revenant and you're looking for a good guide, in about 2 days, I'm going to be putting up a guide for her. So be sure to sub for that. Even if you don't sub for that and you say, well, I'm not sure yet, well, definitely hang around. And in 2 days, I should be posting a build guide for her. Looking forward to it. We're going to hit conclude Remembrance here. That's going to be awesome because we're about to get the relic we were looking for, which is amazing, and is going to give you 2 special abilities for Revenant, and then I believe 1 extra thing at the 3rd one, but ultimately a very good relic. We've now concluded Revenant's Remembrance. Hopefully this guide helped you get there. I know there's a lot of steps. This was a little bit long, but I wanted to be as thorough as I could possibly be. I'm sure there's going to be somebody commenting saying that I could have made it 10 or 12 minutes, but I wanted to make sure everybody knew each step because some of us take a little bit longer to get there, you know? And for me, I'm kind of like that too. I need to see everything exactly, and when people jump from stuff too fast, it makes it difficult to follow. All right, be sure to sub. I'll catch you in the Revenant build guide upcoming soon. Can't wait for the next video.